Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Defensor, for your introduction. I think you know Commissioner Defensor's sister also, Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago. Sister Salva, and the rest of the sisters, faculty, students, and staff of Holy Spirit, thank you very much for the warm welcome. Thank you for receiving me. At short notice, I invited myself to come here. I wasn't able to attend the concert where we featured the piano from Malacanang, but I thought that I would therefore do one of my first visits to the students in your school, which is just across from where I live and work. I'm doing this visit because one of my New Year's resolutions is that before the end of my term, I should continue to reach out to the youth of this nation. And you, why? Because you, the future, you, the youth, are our future. And that is also why education is essential. I think you all know, I think you're all here in school, because you know that a good education is the ticket to a better life. You know that education is the great equalizer that will allow every young Filipino a chance to realize your dreams. That is why our administration has invested so much in education and skills training. I don't know if you know it, but from 90 billion plus pesos before my administration, the combined budget of DepEd, NEDA, CHED, and the state universities and colleges has doubled to over 180 billion pesos. And what did we do with this money? For one thing, we built over 100,000 classrooms. And many of these are in about 1,000 barangays where there used to be no schools at all. And what is the reason why we're doing this? Because one of the UN Millennium Development Goals is for us to achieve primary universal education by 2015. It's very hard to reach this. In fact, the UN says probably no country will get to reach this except Cuba. Small country, so easy to build classrooms for everyone. And why do we need to build schools, classrooms, especially in the 1,000 barangays where there were none? Because if you're in a faraway barangay and the next school is 2 hours walk away, and your child is 6 years old, you won't send your child to school. So we found out that 58% only is the enrollment of 6-year-olds to enter primary school. Others enter much later, others don't enter at all. So we've got to get them when they're 6 years old, and the best way to do it is to build a school, at least for grade 1 and 2, in the same barangay where the children live. It is important so that you can save on transportation going to school and also on the safety and the comfort of the parents whose children have to walk to school. We ask many parents, why don't you send your 6-year-old to school? And they've said, well, transportation is one problem. The other thing is, although school is free, as far as tuition is concerned in public schools, they cannot pay for the miscellaneous fees, and they cannot pay for the uniforms. So we have removed in the public schools the requirement for uniforms, and in primary school, we have removed the miscellaneous fees. That's why the government has to spend more in fact, on what would be covered by miscellaneous fees. In fact, one time, the Girl Scouts of the Philippines came to see me. Now that miscellaneous fees are taken out, they said, at least miscellaneous compulsory fees, what happens now to our Girl Scouts fees? And I said, well, in grade 5, they can start paying, but in grade 1 to 4, they shouldn't, otherwise they might not go to school because of the pressure to pay for all these miscellaneous fees. And they said, but it's the grade school, it's the primary school fees that keep the Girl Scouts going. So I said, well, we'll just have to contribute more to the Girl Scouts from the government rather than getting them from our students. We also have another program to help the poorest 1 million families in our country send their children to school. This is our Pantawid Pamilya program, which provides them with an allowance. Our 1 million poorest families in our country have an allowance of 800 pesos to 1,400 a month, depending on the size of their family, but depending on certain conditions. One of them is that the children from 3 years old up to 16 years old should go to school, whether daycare, preschool, elementary, or high school. And we hope that that will increase our access to universal primary education. Because as I said, you know more than I do that education is the ticket to a better life. So, aside of course, the most basic is to make sure that children go to school. The next thing is once they go to school, we got to make sure that they have a good education. And today I was just having lunch with a newspaper, Business Mirror, and one of the columnists, who's a foreigner, said that he sent his children to public schools in Makati. And he was saying that although he's from Hong Kong, although he's a foreigner, and the school facilities may not be as nice as they have in America, one big difference is that our Filipino teachers are much more devoted to the teaching profession than teachers in many other schools. So a tribute to our teachers. The quality of teachers is indeed important. And if you're going to have additional schools, classrooms, you certainly need additional teachers. So in our administration, we increased the number of teaching jobs by 60,000. And we also increased the salaries of public school teachers. A teacher who used to receive 9,000 pesos now earns 14,000 pesos in the public school. But one of the things that we need to do is to make sure, as far as the good quality of education is concerned, that if you're going to have a good chance for a job after college, you must be good in English. This is a very competitive world. During our generation, and maybe even in Sister Genoveva's administration and Commissioner Nenalin's administration, the medium of instruction was English. We were very competitive. We were second only to Japan in economic development in Asia. Then sometime later, in the 1970s, that was removed as the medium of instruction. And we started to lose one of our big sources of competitiveness. Now the world is even more competitive. And one of our big assets is the business process outsourcing, where you would have a very good job, a very chance for a good job if you speak good English. Unfortunately, what we did was to restore English as the medium of instruction, but one of the problems we found is that our very devoted teachers grew up in the generation where English was no longer the medium of instruction. So some of them did not even have their own problems with English. So we had to spend 1.5 billion pesos for teacher training, especially in math, science, and especially in English. So we have now increased the use of English as a medium of instruction from 40% of hours to 55% in elementary school, and from 45% to 70% in high school. I guess you are noticing that in your own school.